Next week, we'll be discussing The Dead. Tom, how was your read and watch?
I saw this movie in, I think, a film class or in college. I don't remember if it was in a class or just in college on a recommendation. And I had read the short story a number of times back in high school and a few times since then. And I really loved this movie. And it's hard to, which I think is obvious because I brought it to the show. It's actually kind of hard now to remember a time when revisiting the story that the movie wasn't interfering in my imagining of the story because the movie's been with me for so long at this point. But I brought it for this chunk. This chunk is adaptation. I brought two Walter Houston movies, both of which I think adapt in very conventional ways in the sense that neither of them are concept films. Um, However, I think this adaptation is extremely smart and interesting to talk about as an adaptation because it's taking this like story that really isn't dramatic and giving it a sort of dramatic life to it in a very subtle way. And I really find that very appealing. And I also have to say that this is one of those movies that no matter how many times I see it, it always kind of makes me crack up a little bit at the end, which has become all the more true the older I get. Is, as you grow older, and I, kind of like actually have had similar experiences to Gabriel, the movie becomes all the more poignant. Chris, how was your first impression?
Watching this movie was a brand new thing for me. I've actually never read the short story or book, and when I signed on to do this episode, this was going to be a brand new experience for me. I have to admit that I was skeptical when I watched like some of the previews and read some of the synopses of it, but I ended up really enjoying it. Uh, I thought it was a little bit on. I can see how a lot of people that might watch this for the first time might think it's a little slow. There's a lot of monologues. There's a lot of different, just like watching these people dance. But I think the way the characters interact is very interesting. And I think that if I was watching this movie as a 20-year-old, I would have definitely tuned out within like 15 minutes and been completely tired and shut it off. But as somebody that's a little older, I do kind of start to see a little bit of myself in some of these characters. And I think you just said that actually. And it made it a little bit more poignant and it made it a little bit sadder, I guess, a little bit. But it was definitely like you're experiencing a little snapshot of all these people's lives. And I want to say they're all acting. They're all acting in this moment. This is not who they truly are, I don't think. But it was interesting, and I really did enjoy watching it, even though I didn't have any conception of what I was actually getting myself into when I signed up to watch it. What about you, KJ? What did you think?
Well, before Tom mentioned the movie, I had never heard of The Dead. And Tom was kind enough to send us the short story. So I read the short story and it was lovely. It was a lovely read. It's very witty, right? There's a lot of good banter in there. So I thought the short story reminded me of Godsford Park or maybe Downton Abbey. I haven't seen very much Downton Abbey. So I said to my wife Rachel, I said, "Hey Rachel, I got this movie. I think it's going to be like Godsford Park or Downton Abbey." Although Tom says, well, mixed messages on if it's similar to Godsford Park or Downton Abbey. And we put it on, and we're watching, and I laughed at the horse joke, and Rachel gave me a look because she was pretty bored, and we were pretty bored with this movie. But I will say there's a line in a Dream Theater song. The song's called 6 o'clock, and it's from this movie. And it's I think the quote is, "I know all about the power of God, Mary Jane." And I always thought that was a Spider-Man reference, but it turned out it was from James Joyce's The Dead. How about you, Nick? How was your watch?
I had not read the short story or seen this film before, and I don't think anyone would confuse me with a Joyceaholic. But this was a first watch for me. And what I will tell you, I don't think I've ever been more excited in my life for an episode because I have no idea what Tom is going to bring to us to the table here to talk about. So I'm thrilled. So I can't wait for next week to see what we're all about. For those interested in watching The Dead, it is presently available on Hoopla at the time of this recording.